All right, let's dive right in. You know, we all like to think that we're firmly in the driver's seat, that we're making rational, logical choices. Especially when it comes to the big stuff, right? Our careers, our money, our health. We just assume we're in control. And this idea, well, it's pretty much the bedrock of standard economics. It boils down to this. When the stakes are high, when there's a lot on the line, we think things through. We weigh our options carefully, and we make the best possible decision for ourselves. I mean, that feels right, doesn't it?
But are we really that rational? This whole explainer is based on the amazing work of behavioral economist Dan Ariely, and it's going to challenge that core belief in some really, well, fascinating and pretty surprising ways.
So our journey into all this irrationality, it doesn't actually start in some stuffy economics classroom. No, it starts in a much more personal and, frankly, painful place, a hospital burn unit. And it's here that a young Dan Ariely came face to face with a truly life-changing question.
See, every single day he had to go through this incredibly excruciating procedure. Now, as nurses, they were compassionate, they were experienced, and they were absolutely dedicated to making him suffer as little as possible. And they had a very specific method that they were convinced was the best way to do it.
Their theory was basically, let's just get it over with fast. You know, a quick, sharp, intense burst of pain. They assumed that had to be better than drawing it out. But Ariely, who was, the one actually feeling the pain, he had a different idea. And guess what? Years later, his own research proved his gut feeling was right. Going slow and steady, even though it took way longer, was actually far less agonizing in total.
And think about this. This wasn't because the nurses were bad at their jobs or didn't care. Not at all. It was about a deep-seated systemic bias in how they perceived his pain. And that painful realization, it sparked this lifelong quest for Ariely, to find all the other invisible forces that are secretly shaping our decisions without us ever even noticing.
Okay, so let's shift from the hospital to the lab. We're going to look at two of Ariely's most famous experiments. And these really pull back the curtain on just how strange and yet how completely predictable our irrationality really is.
So, first up is this powerful idea of relativity. Here's the thing. Most of us have no idea what we really want unless we see it in context. We just don't make choices in a vacuum. We compare everything to everything else. So imagine you're looking at a subscription offer for, say, The Economist magazine. Okay. So you've got two choices. What do you do? It's not an easy decision, right? The internet-only one is pretty cheap, but that combo package is more than twice the price. It's a tough call. But watch what happens when we throw a third option into the mix.
Now, take a look at that middle one. At first glance, it looks totally useless. I mean, why in the world would anyone pay $125 for just the print subscription when you can get both print and internet for the exact same price? It feels like a typo, right? But it's not. That option has a very specific, and I gotta say, very sneaky job to do.
And this is a brilliant illustration of something called the decoy effect. When Ariely gave this choice to his students, of course, nobody picked the decoy. But its mere presence completely changed the game. All of a sudden, that print and internet package looks like a fantastic deal, and a whopping 84% of people chose it. Just by adding an option that nobody wanted, that decoy made the most expensive choice seem like a total no-brainer. Okay, so that leads us to another really fascinating idea called anchoring. To show just how powerful and, frankly, how random these anchors can be, Ariely set up a little auction with his MIT students. They were bidding on a few items, including a pretty nice bottle of wine. But before they could place a real bid, he had them do something, well, something that seems totally random. First, he told them to write down the last two digits of their social security number. Then he asked them, hey, would you, hypothetically, pay that amount in dollars for this wine? The result? It was absolutely wild. That completely random number, a number that has zero to do with the value of wine, became this powerful mental anchor. Students who had high social security numbers, they consistently bid way more than the students with low numbers. That very first number they thought about, no matter how arbitrary, basically set the price for what they felt that wine was worth. Incredible. So, what do these kind of weird experiments with magazines and bottles of wine actually tell us about ourselves? It's way more than just a funny little quirk of the human brain. It really reveals something deep about how our minds work out in the real world.
And here's the key takeaway. It's not just that we're irrational. We are predictably irrational. Our mistakes, our biases, the ways we stray from perfect logic, they aren't random at all. They happen in the same way, over and over again. They follow a pattern. And once you see that pattern, trust me, you start seeing it everywhere.
I mean, just think about what we just saw. We think we're making a free choice, but the simple context of other options completely changes what we want. That's relativity. A totally useless option, the decoy, can literally trick us into spending more money. A random number, the anchor, can dictate what we're willing to pay. And even worse, that first anchor can lock us into a whole pattern of decisions for years to come. It's a powerful idea Aureli calls arbitrary coherence.
This whole concept just completely flies in the face of traditional economics. Remember that idea that we're all rational? This suggests that's just not the case. But understanding our predictable irrationality? Well, that's the first step. It's the starting point for making better decisions for ourselves and for building systems that are designed for how people actually behave, not how we think they should behave.
Which, of course, brings this whole conversation right back to you. Because these hidden forces, they aren't just happening in some MIT lab. They are influencing your life every single day.
You know, the famous saying is, "I think, therefore I am." But Aureli's work kind of pokes a hole in that. If so many of our choices are just shaped by illusions, by these invisible anchors and clever decoys, then who are we really? What obvious choice that you make every day is maybe not so obvious after all? Being aware of these forces, well, that's the first step. But it leaves you with a big question. Now that you know, what are you going to do about it?